All right, we're rolling. Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We have with us a special guest today. I say that every time. If you haven't figured out, they're all very special, and we enjoy this. So, congratulations for everybody being here again, and pay special attention today for a six-time, I said six, not five, not four, but six-time Olympian, Kim Rhode. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, I've been looking forward to this for a while now. I'm really glad that our buddy Dave was able to link us up. Thank you so much. So let's get right into it. I have to ask, six-time Olympian for what?
Well, I've competed in the first three Olympics in international doubles trap, which is a form of shotgun shooting. And then the last three Olympics in international skeet. And I've played a little bit in the bunker. But essentially all my medals were for doubles trap and international skeet, both forms of shotgun shooting.
Okay. So this affair with shotgun shooting has been over how many years?
Oh, now you're making me pull out the. Well, I started competing when I was 10. It was something that was generationally passed down in my family. I actually started off in an NRA junior program out at the local gun club, and I started off shooting rifle. Actually, a lot of people don't realize I did standing, kneeling, or 3P as they say, prone. And it just kind of progressed. And they had once a month you could go and give, clay targets a try. And so I did. And of course, I was addicted. Now, that's been about, I'm dating myself now a little bit, I'm going to say about 35 years ago. So it's been a few years competing both in rifle and then moving into American forms of shooting, like your American skeet and stuff like that, and then into the international competition, which is what is only shot in the Olympics.
Wow. So I've
crossed the gamut. I've done it all.
That's fantastic.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert in all, but I have done a little bit of all. And I think it's just the way it is. I mean, when it's passed down generationally in your family, it's just one of those things. And my grandfather was a houndsman, had 50, 60 hounds, and, just a way of life for us.
Wow.
And, getting ready for the next hunt or the next thing. I think for me, it was September 1st, Yuma, Arizona, dove hunting. And I remember getting ready for that out at one of the local clubs. And somebody said, you're pretty good. Why don't you try the club shoot? And it just kind of kept mushrooming from there. So It's really a passion that I not only love, but I live by.
So do you have a handle for people to try and understand what it takes in order to not only the coaching and the discipline itself, but in terms of the volume of practice? Do you have a handle on how many rounds of 12 gauge ammunition that you've fired in your time?
Well, I'm thankfully sponsored by Winchester at this point. Love them, love their products, very reliable, and actually just a great company all the way around. But I was delivered pallets of ammo. The number is in the millions of shots. I average, just to give you an idea, anywhere between 500 and 1,000 rounds 7 days a week. So you can do the math. That's been a lot of shooting in my lifetime, a lot of lead put down range, but that's what it takes to be an Olympian, to be at that level. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it.
I'm doing some math here.
I hope I have another couple million rounds in my lifetime. I don't have any intentions of stopping.
I'm doing the math there on a calculator on this other screen. So let's say it's 1,000 rounds a day. It's 365 days a year. That's 365,000 rounds. We'll divide that by 4. So you're talking, let's say that a shotgun hole, an average for average Joe, is 25 cents a pop. So that's $91,250 worth of ammunition in a year. Now, here's the kicker, and this is the shameless plug. Okay, so IFC has these trusted partners that we use that truly are trusted partners in terms of, they support the people that support you. We do that. And so let's say if you went to Brownells today, they're a tremendous partner for us, and Pete Brownell's on our board. They've been really great people. The people that work there are great people. So it's really great. Great people, great. So what I'm saying is, I'm thinking to myself, when you do that, I always do the math on things like that real quick. So $91,250 worth of ammo. And if you use Trusted Partners code at Brownells for 10% off, you would save $9,125 just by using that code on the amount of ammunition that you burn through in a year. That's
A lot of
insane.
yeah. Well, it's funny because when I first started, we did all the reloading.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah, we reloaded everything, and because that's what you got to do, save. I mean, let's face it, shooting's expensive, and it's only getting more expensive with all these laws that they keep passing. But the reality is it's expensive. So we did all the reloading ourselves, and in fact, we laugh because my dad invented an automatic shell and wad feeder that Ponce and Warner uses today.
Wow.
So we could load up to a box a minute with his invention.
It doesn't take long.
He sold it to Ponce and Warner, and now that's what some of the stuff is that you guys all enjoy today. It's all because of having to reload and shoot as much as I did.
Necessity dictates those things. I mean, not very many people out there understand what it takes to reload a shotgun hole, but the truth of the matter is, it doesn't take very long to empty it. I mean, you pull the trigger and it goes. Now, in order to put it all back, it takes longer. So you are spending hours a day on practice and then hours a day on reloading?
Well, I used to. Now in international circuit, they don't allow any reloads to be shot. So now we're shooting all factory, and that's where really having sponsors like Winchester and Beretta and all the different companies. I mean, becoming an Olympian and representing your country isn't something you do on your own. It takes a lot of support, a lot of help from a lot of different individuals. And I am no exception to that. I mean, I've had a lot of help along the way, from neighbors giving me rides to the range, to my mom and dad pulling for me, to companies like Winchester and Beretta and, Ranger and different ones like that, stepping up to the plate to help support me and continue my dream, which is obviously and hopefully another Olympic medal in 2028.
Oh,
I'm still going for it.
That's official now. I hadn't paid attention to that. I had heard that you were clear back into June and July. I'd heard that you were eyeing a spot, but I mean, you almost have to, isn't it? Right in your neighborhood.
It's in my back door, so It's at my back door. I can't deny that. It would be incredible to have the hometown crowd cheering me on. So it's something that I have to go for. I am going to go for it.
Good.
I've had one selection match already for the team as we lead up to the World Cups and World Championships, just for the national team for the USA shooting. And I'm doing really well on that. And of course, the Olympic selections don't start until about 2 years out from the Olympics. But it's a long process, and it starts now, 4 years out every day.
These things take a while to plan for, and the discipline associated with this is unbelievable. So that leads me to another question. You've accomplished a lot of your goals, I'm sure. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. So maybe, since the scholastic shooting in Iowa is blossoming, and a lot of the places in the Midwest, especially, I've noticed an uptick. I don't know if it's that way on the coast. I haven't spoken to enough people there to know for sure, but I'm seeing a lot of enthusiasm with scholastic shooting sports. So give me an idea what a young person and their family or their supports may need to know in order to get a nice start, because I think there's a lot of people out there that fall into the category I just described. So do you have any words of wisdom that you could offer us?
I would say there's a lot of tips and tricks. Your whole life you've been taught to point. Look at that house. Look at that car. When you point at something, you tend to be right on it. So putting your finger out on the forend, either on the side or underneath, whatever's most comfortable for you, will give you an extra one or two birds around. But then there are other things like repetition. A lot of people will shoot rounds of skeet or rounds of trap, but by the time you miss on, say, station one, in trap or skeet, and you shoot a hard left and trap or something, the reality is that you only get that so many times. Whereas if you were to stand on that station and drill that target 5 or 10 times in a row, and then try to come back and recall it in the round, you'll be a lot better off. You'll gain a lot more from it than shooting it once or twice out of 25 shots with all these other ones mixed in there. So repetition is really important, and you see it a lot in other sports, like, say, golf, where you go to the driving range or you go to the putting green. You don't just constantly play the game. Same thing with baseball and the batting cages. The list goes on and on. But however, for whatever reason, in shooting, you see a lot of people just play the game instead of focusing and breaking it down in sometimes its simplest forms, which is that repetition. And when you do that, you tend to get a lot better quicker. And then the third thing I would say is being honest with yourself, facing your fears. It's okay to miss in practice. I mean, practice is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to be drilling your hardest stations and putting yourself out there. Who cares what everybody's, standing behind the fence watching you shoot? The reality is the goal is to get better. And not just better, in that moment, but better in competition. So you have to be willing to face your fears and be honest with yourself, so that when you step out on that line, you don't have any doubt that you can't hit any of those targets. Because if you have any doubt, you've already lost. So the idea is to step out there with all the confidence that you can hit every single target, and really practice that in practice with that repetition, and having that finger out and all the other tricks that go with it, like leads and hold points, which are too many to talk about in this one segment. Maybe we do this in another one, but the reality is there's a lot to it, and it's all the little subtleties that you don't necessarily see.
Well, you're making the case for this being a cerebral sport, and I think that there are a lot of people who don't recognize that that's the case in almost everything you do in life. It truly is. I remember my daughter's 15. We were headed down this year from Iowa to Missouri to the family farms to hunt, and we had a 3.5 hour car drive, and so we visited the whole time down there, right? So she's running her yap, I'm running my yap, we're collaborating, right? And so I told her, I said, what I want you to do is I want you to mentally prepare for what this hunt looks like. You know the stand you're going to be sitting in. You know where they usually come out and where they don't. You know what the ranges are to each place that there's a trail and whatever else. You don't have any exceedingly far shots. I want you to think about where you need to put the reticle on the deer if they're quartering away, broadside quartering towards you. Do you want to shoot? How far you're going to have to lead if they're moving, and if maybe can you holler or whistle so they stop? I want you to think through that, because I have the expectation you'll make a hard shot, or I don't want you to shoot. And there are obviously some shoots that you don't want to take. So I want you to think through that. And we went over and over and over that. And then, you turn her loose. And then you get a phone call, an hour into opening morning. Hey, I got a 10-point monster. Like, well, what do you mean you got a 10-point monster? Well, it was a really, really big one, and I decided to shoot, and he jumped and fell down, and he's been laying there for an hour. And I'm like, I love you very much. You know, and so just
I'll be right there with the camera. That's what you said.
I think I peed a little. Don't tell anybody, and off you go. So yeah, but mental prep is huge. I mean, you offered 2 tips to me when you started this that sound so basic. I'm thinking, man, am I ignorant and silly or what? Those things should be self-evident to everybody if you think through it, but they weren't. I didn't know those things, and so thank you for that. But as you say, the mental aspect of this is huge. I mean, prepare, think through it, give your best, and evaluate. I mean, and make some corrections if you need to. I suppose that's simple, right?
Oh, I mean, there's so many different tricks to this game. I mean, to all the games. I mean, that's really what this is about. I'm still learning. I'm still pushing the envelope. I'm still trying to get better. I think that's what you'll find with most Olympians. We're never satisfied. We want that perfect score. And not only that, but we want it all smoke targets, not just chips and different things like that. So we're always trying to perfect. But at the same time, I mean, there's just so many tricks, from chokes to lenses to, the gun. I mean, you hear a lot of times guys say, I can't hit anything with this gun, but I can hit everything with this one. And usually that's something where one is more on than the other. And there's ways that people go through that and sandbag and squeeze the shotgun off just like a rifle to eliminate that gun, to know that now if you miss, it's really on you. It's not the gun. And that each gun is the same, because people don't realize, they make the barrel over here and then they take it to another machine and chuck it up and put the chokes in, and then they take it to another machine and they solder the rib on. And then you have one guy that's doing hundreds of guns or, a day. I mean, how on are they really going to be? And that's really, one of the beautiful things with the Beretta that I'm shooting, is that it's all done for the most part in one machine. So it eliminates a lot of that and makes it, I think, more accurate. So it's one of the most accurate guns I've had in my career.
Well, in full disclosure, I own a gunsmithing shop, and one of the things that we do a lot of are precision firearms. And there's an expectation with customers to come in about a result. And so I'm able to help them as best I can with doing things with this firearm that lend itself to consistency. And if it lends itself to consistency, many of the other things that you want from it are capable of happening. Now, you still have to, your inputs are chief. I mean, that's paramount. But that needs to be consistent at its base, or you're going to have trouble,
Well, and think of it this way. I mean, and this is really basic, but when you buy a rifle, you don't just take it out and go compete. You take it to the range, you sandbag it, you sight it in, you get your ammunition all squared up, to make it very, very precision based. But everybody, when they buy a shotgun, the first thing they do is they go out and shoot it, take it and go compete or go hunt.
Yeah.
Yet they're made very similarly, obviously we don't have the rifling and the shotgun, but you still have the chokes made over here and the barrel made over here. And you have all these things that put together. So even though you have, the same shotgun, one may be a little bit more on than another. And so these are things that we look at from an Olympic standpoint as the accuracy and different things. And you hear it all the time at the range. I can hit anything with this gun, but I can't hit anything with this other. And that's where, maybe this one is maybe a little off or a little bit different to what you learned was being on.
Yeah.
And that's some of those little tricks that we've developed, especially being an Olympian, as we lead up to, like, say, the Olympics, and figuring out, how do we make all of them the same from one to the next to the next. So that way, when we're competing, or if we have anything that, we know that it's not the gun, it's us if we miss. Yeah. And that's really imperative.
I make jokes about it being a concert when you're able to hit a target the first round at a tremendous distance, because there's so many things that have to come together in order to work. And you're making the case for basically for a shotgun as an orchestra, but there are different components here, and there, and they all have to complement one another. If one's not working right, then you've got to tune it or make a tweak so that these things are collaborate and they're consistent. And that makes sense when you think about it like that.
Well, even down to your chokes. I mean, the difference between a skeet choke and a modified is the thicknesses of hairs.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking such small increments, and all those little small increments need to add up to be successful again and again and again to hit those targets. And so you start eliminating those factors as an Olympian. You go through your chokes, you go through the gun, and you go through that. Then it turns to you. It's about the mount, head down, gun fit, those types of things, but as you eliminate those factors, you become more and more successful in the sport and more successful at hitting those targets. And that's really the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. You were kind enough to point out a few things that we should be considering as we begin, or things to keep in mind as we continue. In your experience, is there something that we should be avoiding? I mean, is there a pitfall that people fall into that we should watch out for?
Well, I think the biggest pitfall is when you're learning is you get overloaded with information and everybody is an expert. And so I always say if they can't explain to you the reason why they're telling you something, then it's probably not a good idea. You may not be as successful. If they can't explain the reasoning behind it, like keeping your head down, for example, and being one with the gun so that you're in line with that target. If they can't explain why you want to keep your head down or why you want to put your finger out on the forend so that you use it as an extension of your barrel to point at the target, if they can't tell you that, then maybe it's gray area and not the best idea to go in that direction, if you know what I mean.
I
So,
do. Yeah.
because
Believe me.
that's one thing I see a lot of is just do it because I said so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the internet is equal parts good and terrible for things like this. There's a lot of things that you can pick up, a lot of things to ponder. And the number of net rangers and keyboard commandos are approaching infinite at this point, and they've all got something to say. And when I read some of the stuff online that I read, I'm like, you know what? That person should be banned. I'm not sure I would break all his fingers with a hammer, but most of them, you know, I don't want him around a keyboard or a telephone or any kind of device anymore. He's bad for people, and people they throw out those things. And I think that most people, Kim, are probably well intentioned, but I don't think it's inappropriate to question somebody. You're right. Okay. Why did you say that? What makes that statement true? How many times have you done this yourself with success? That's okay, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I think it just gets you more to the point to help you understand why you're doing what you're doing. If they can't explain it to you, then it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
If it makes sense to you, then their explanation and everything, then why not give it a try? I'm a fan of trying something in the sense that if you think it's going to make you better, but if you have no issues, don't change. I mean, the reality is like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. There's just so many things out there, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Some stuff I'm like, what is this? And then other things I'm like, oh man, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that. So you have to be willing to listen, but at the same time, know when something is not quite right or, isn't living up to snuff as far as, going to make you more successful. And that's part of the trick and the challenge in shooting. And, I don't claim to be an expert in everything, and I still am learning, but at the same time, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Oh, no doubt. I think that's true of every subject. Let's move real quickly into Second Amendment advocacy. Are you doing any of that? Are you not doing any of that, and why?
Well, I'm a huge, obviously, advocate for the Second Amendment. In the state of California, I'm actually the lead plaintiff against the state on Prop 63, which is the ammunition background checks. And I've been fighting that for over 9 years now. Boy, time has flown. I'm just had a court date, I think, just on the 4th of December. So just a few days ago, we started it again. We've won it 3 times already, and of course, it's back again in the Ninth Circuit, and we're fighting it again, and I'll keep fighting it until we have the ruling, until California drops it, basically. But at the end of the day, I'm a huge advocate for the Second Amendment. I believe very passionately in it. I'm serving on the board of the NRA currently, and have been on the board in the past. So it is something very near and dear to my heart.
Fantastic. Thank you for that service. Do you think that you're capable? I shouldn't say, okay, let me back up. I don't mean you specifically, Kim. Is a person capable of owning a weapon, whether they use it or not, and not being required to be an advocate? Can you aspire to the Second Amendment without advocating for it. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I think that there's not a possibility. I think you have to realize how important the NRA is and how important the Second Amendment is. I mean, without the Second Amendment, you don't have a lot of the other amendments. Let's be realistic. At least that's my opinion. But at the same time, too, I don't believe so. I think you have to, if you own a firearm, you should be voicing for the Second Amendment and you should be speaking out, because there's a lot of really positive things that have come from it. And at least for me, I mean, I want to make sure the sport is around for many, many generations. I have an 11-year-old son. He's been shooting. Will he be a competitor? Who knows? But the fact that the sport will be there for him 20, 30 years from now, that's what I want to ensure. I want to really educate people and just pass on the knowledge and share the experiences that I've had, the love that I've had with the outdoors, with my firearms, with my family. And yeah, I really am a firm believer in that. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
It
uh,
does, but I didn't throw that at you um, to grab this boomerang and ding you with it. It's
no,
almost to the point now where I don't think that I would agree with the assertion that I just made you in that um, a a firearm owner needs to be an advocate. I used to believe that it was a prerequisite for a firearm owner to be a Second Amendment advocate. I'm to the point now where I think you need to be a Second Amendment advocate, whether you own a firearm or you think that you never will. Because if you start reading those 27 words in the Second Amendment and you start to understand them in the true context in which they were offered and what they actually mean, what they're saying is this is a restriction on government. It's not a restriction on people. And oh, by the way, these things are ordained, if you will. They're in unalienable, and unalienable is a word that we don't even use anymore. We don't even speak with language like that, and we don't seem like we understand what it actually means. But when we bring that to bear, what we're really saying is this can't be taken away from you in any way, shape, or form. It should not be curtailed. And anybody who thinks that that should happen, could or had ought to happen, you should seriously be questioning. And not just for the purposes of the Second Amendment, but across the board, Kim. If
right.
you're
Well,
willing,
it's a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. Something that can never be taken away and should never be taken away.
yeah,
I mean, when you look back to what our forefathers, where they came from that oppressive environment, and why they wrote that specifically into our Constitution, into the Second Amendment, and created that was because they understood the importance of it, what that meant for the First Amendment and all the other amendments. And I mean, we can go back in history again and again, and you can see where that Second Amendment and what that means and why that's so important to so many people, and you can see it in other countries occurring. And at the end of the day, I agree with you, but I think it also comes with education.
yes,
I know, being that I'm from California, we have a lot of people that are not as educated as they should be. That's one of the things that we've seen is a huge oppression of knowledge. Shooting was, when you look back to, like, say, Norman Rockwell, Norman Rockwell would depict paintings of just the standard everyday life of an American citizen. And when you look at those paintings, more often than not, you would have a firearm in them. And it was a way of life. People were taught safety and responsibility. They had them in their houses, and it was education from the beginning. Now it's very hard unless you're being taught from someone like me or you go to a class. You have to seek it out. And that's something that's a little different. It's not taught in schools. It's not taught in that type of an environment. And that's something where we have to really step up to the plate, and where I see a big role for NRA. And I think that's something that they may have moved away from a little bit in the past, and we need to get back to, is that education side, that competitive side that, is so important, not only for future generations, but for the legacy of our of our sport, of our firearms, and everything in general.
Well, there's an underpinning in philosophy there that I don't know if I adequately relayed it across to you when I'm saying to you about the Second Amendment and what the words mean is is this philosophy that if you, whether you're a politician, the ruling class, Joe Blow, doesn't make a difference. If you're willing to take the posture, then I'm going to take this from you. I'm going to curtail your use of this thing, or I'm not going to allow you to have it. Not because of you, but because I'm apparently afraid of myself or something else. Then that's a mindset. And you need to ask yourself, do you want people with that mindset in positions to control you or control things that control you? Whether they're laws, devices, how your Google search functions, you know what I mean? And so when you think about it like that, you say to yourself, okay, I think everybody should be a Second Amendment advocate because of what it implies and because of what you're pushing back on. I think that you saw in this election cycle, I'm not sure yet, but I think that you saw some people wake up and say, wait a minute, all this stuff I've been told doesn't appear to be true, or at least a whole bunch of it is not coming to fruition like we were told it would. Now, I would
You mean
tell you,
you mean your groceries aren't cheaper?
they don't seem to be. No, but I mean, there's a lot of people. Okay, listen, I'm no different than anybody else. I've operated in an echo chamber before. I believed what I wanted to hear sounded great, therefore it must be true. And I've walked down the wrong path and said, "Oh, geez, man, I got sold a bill of goods and I'm feeling awful dumb." Well, each of us has those times in our life that we wake up a little bit. Hopefully, your learning curve isn't too bad, and you're not destitute and bankrupt. But it does happen. What I'm saying is, I think a lot of people have stepped back and said, "Okay, I've been lied to often enough. I'm going to start questioning." And I think this is a really important time when these things happen that we see this catalyst and we recognize, okay, if you're going to go there, I want you to go a couple steps further and I want you to think about the Second Amendment. I want you to think, don't worry about guns, that clouds the issue. I want you to think philosophically about what that means, how it was meant to be understood, and how it applies in life. And I want you to go do that. And if you think about that, what I'm saying is every person that has any desire at all for any level of freedom or liberty should be a Second Amendment advocate. Everyone.
100%. 100%. I totally agree with you on that. In that the Second Amendment is about much more than just the firearm. 100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that.
Man, how have we been talking for what? 4 or 5 hours now, or just 4 or 5 minutes? I lost track of time already, Kim.
I have no idea. I mean, it's been awesome. I think we've covered a few things, but I think there's some more we can still cover.
Well, I've got a few minutes left. Let's do this. I had a few things that I wanted to check the boxes on and visit with about, and I've done that. What things do you want to address, or is there something that the listeners here in Iowa and beyond need to know? Tell us something that you want us to understand.
Well, I think one of the important things is I'm up for reelection for the NRA board. So if you guys are getting your magazines and things like that, if I could get you guys to support me, I would really appreciate that moving forward. Obviously, my goals are about what's best for the sport, the future of the sport, the making sure that this is around for many generations. And we need the NRA. We need those educational programs. We need the competitions and that side of it. And that's something that I definitely can bring to the table. And we definitely need some updating and within the NRA as far as the digital content and just things in general from classes and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking to share the knowledge, make sure it's around for a very long time, and really step up and fight for our rights, which I'm doing in the state of California currently. But then also too, I look at the exciting stuff like LA 2028 coming to the United States. We have the Olympics, and I don't think people really realized how close we came to losing shooting in the Olympics.
Oh,
I think there was a lot of talk of just air guns in a convention hall. And I said, whoa, 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 guys, as we're in this meeting. And I'm like, no, we have to keep all the events, rifle, pistol, shotgun. And we fought for that. and we were successful. And now, they're supposed to make an announcement in the coming months about, the venue. It's really down to 2 places, but I can't really say. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I'm very involved in that as well, and much on a world scale as much as I am in the United States. And it's all important. We're in this together. We need to band together. And yeah, I'm excited about what the future holds, and what it holds for my son for many, many generations from now.
Fantastic. I know that this is could border on inappropriate, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is there like a special hangout for Olympians when you go places? I mean, is there a back room with like overstuffed leather couches and you like cigars and top shelf drinks? I mean, do they have that for you guys, or are you just regular Joe Blow Americans?
Well, being an Olympian and having done it 6 times, each journey has been unique. When I was a young kid, I didn't really realize what I had done until I got back and I went back to high school, and how life changing that is, to now where I'm a mom and, competing in Rio and some of these others, and having my son there, and the inspiration and what you see and that, and how it's much bigger than you. And it's about wearing that red, white, and blue on your back.
Yeah.
I can say that we are just like everybody else. We do the dishes and the laundry. We happen to be very good at a sport that we've dedicated a lot of time and effort and put a lot of lead down range, which you mathematically figured out. But at the end of the day, it's, would I say we're special? Do we have a special room? I wish. But definitely, we get a little bit of notoriety within our industry, and I'm very thankful and honored by that. But at the same time, we put our shoes on just like everybody else.
So each gold medal doesn't win you a decade of free lawn service. Is that what you're saying?
No,
man.
Definitely not. I was cooking dinner last night, so yeah, definitely not doing dishes. If I had to, I would take dishes over lawn service any day of the week.
Well, we all have our things we don't like. If somebody told me they give me a decade of free lawn mowing, I might be compelled to go practice up. I might, because I like mowing the lawn like I like getting punched in the face. But
well, I imagine that your lawns are a lot bigger than our lawns here in California, just by the cost of things. So, it's all in perspective, I think, of where we live.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I feel very blessed, very honored, to have competed, to represent my country. I think, the most common question I get asked is, what is it like to stand on that podium and watch that American flag go to the top of the pole and hear that national anthem? And I can honestly say, in having done it 6 times, it doesn't matter if it was the gold, the silver, the bronze. And the bronze, I think you work twice as hard for, because, things aren't going right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having to overcome obstacles when you're, stress and under pressure. And I honestly, truly believe a bronze is harder than the gold sometimes. But when you're on that podium, you quickly realize that it doesn't really matter the color. It's really about the journey that it took to get there.
Yes.
And all the things that you had to overcome. When people are telling you, you'll never do this, you should just quit, and you just keep going. It's those memories that flash in the seconds as the flag is raising. And it's those memories that I think have us coming back, at least for me, again and again, because it's really about the journey. And I can tell you, when that flag's going up there, you want to run, scream, cry, jump up and down, and you just don't know which one to do first. Yeah. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh, that's absolutely exhilarating. I've told a lot of people that when you hear somebody say, especially if they say it flippantly, that the ends justifies the means, that you just witnessed a cruel statement, because the path matters. The pathway matters supremely. I can barely relay this adequately to my daughter and to my son and to my friends and family. I mean, how you get where you get makes all the difference.
Well, and I think how you get there, because it's not like I always tell my son, it's not what you would do knowing that you got caught or anything like that. It's knowing that you would never get caught. Would you still do that? That's someone's true personality or true core self. And yeah, I like to know I have integrity and honor, and that I got there doing that the right way
Yes.
and beating people head to head in competition, knowing that I was the best on that day. And I've been known to give my competitors my backup gun when their guns break,
Mhm.
hand warmers when it was cold, because at the end of the day, I want to know I won because I was the best,
Yeah.
not because my competitor didn't have what they needed to compete at their best, because that's not winning in my eyes. My
Yeah.
eyes, it's only winning when everyone is at that top level.
Yeah.
And that's really what you see at the Olympics. You're looking at the creme de la creme of people around the world competing head to head with everything hopefully going right. It doesn't always do, but you do the best you can. And at the end of the day, it's a example of sportsmanship.
Yeah. One of my mentors told me once. He said, Michael, I was having this trouble doing this thing, right? And I didn't actually go to him and ask for help, but he recognized I was struggling. And he says, let me give you a metaphor that'll be helpful for you, I think. And I said, all right, lay it on me. He said, you want to build the tallest building in town. He said, let's say that's your goal. I said, okay, fine. And he said, there's only two ways to accomplish that. He said, you can work your butt off and build floors and add it and add and add, and you'll eventually have the tallest building in town. He said, or you can swing a wrecking ball and knock everybody else's building down, falsely giving you the appearance of having the tallest building in town. Which path is it that you want? And I had to decide. And it was more of an ethical thing, metaphorically, than anything else. But the truth of the matter is, that goes directly to what you said. You want to know that you did it because you worked hard enough and you were good enough, not that somebody else had a bad day.
That's
Or,
right.
or
And
ever,
I want to help. I want to help. I want to pass on that knowledge and share. In fact, Amber English used to train with me and coach, come out and shoot with me and my father, and we helped her, and she went on to win an Olympic gold medal. So yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that you're only as good as who you surround yourself with, and that you give back. And that's really, this is me, NRA, and everything else that I do is about me giving back and making sure it's around for future generations. And I have the best intentions at heart. It's really about, what is best for the sport, what is best for the future, for our kids, for women, and for the legacy. I mean, we need to fight. We need to, um, raise those flags and let everybody know, hey, this isn't right over here, or hey guys, we can get behind this.
yeah, fantastic. Okay. This has been a good time. I appreciate you willing to spend time with us this morning. Any parting words before we go?
Just don't miss. That's, I guess, the only thing I think every good shooter will tell you.
the the epitome of the world summed up. Just don't miss. Yeah. I can't. Well, I probably shouldn't say this. My daughter will kill me if she watches this. But sometimes parents have a way when this is. You have to understand. We have a really great sense of humor among us. So I I remember she was out playing volleyball in the little court that we built in front of the house just the other day, and I think it was yesterday. Actually, it was nice. And I looked over and I said, "Well, how you getting along?" And she was jump serving and trying some things, right? And I said, "Caitlin, I said, whatever it is you're doing to suck at volleyball, you should stop, okay?" You know, so that's not quite the same, Kim, as saying just don't miss, but she took it well. We laughed. Her mom's mouth dropped open. I had to apologize, all the things associated with it, but there's no reason that this can't be fun.
Well, it's one of those bumps in the road, right? When you
Yes.
overcome the obstacle. So yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
We have a very dry sense of humor in my family as well. So yeah, it's just the way it is, and you have to laugh at it, and yeah, I'm very excited, and thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Oh, it's been a good time. Thank you for the time this morning. Kim Rhode, NRA board member, 6-time Olympian. Not 5, not 4, 6.
Hopefully 7. Hopefully 7.
I'm
We
looking
have
forward to
7
that.
for the next Olympics. That's what I'm going for. 7
Fantastic.
Olympics, 7 medals.
Well, I got news for you.
No pressure,
Well,
right?
yeah, well, we'll end on this note, Kim. Just don't miss.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Thank you, everybody. IFC Warrior Wednesday. We'll see you again soon. Stay safe out there. Bye.
bye, everybody.